All right, good evening. Welcome to the Berwick Planning Board. This is a regular meeting for Thursday, August 20th of 2020. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so Planning Board members present tonight. We have the Vice Chair, Nicole Fecta. We have alternate member David Ross Lyons. We have no other board members present. Sean Winston and Frank Underwood are not here tonight, so David, you'll be a voting member. So we do have a quorum of 3 people. We're also joined on Zoom with our Code Enforcement Officer, Jennifer McCabe, and our Town Planner, James Bellissimo, who's I commented on his outfit tonight, so you're very, very sharp, James. Very sharp, very sharp.
Very flattered.
Next on the agenda is the public comment session. Public comment is open to any resident or property owner in the town of Berwick to come forward and talk about anything that relates to the Berwick Planning Board. Granted, we have a public hearing this evening for 2 applications, so if you'd like to reserve your comments for the public hearing, we could take those during that, but if you feel like you want to come up during the public comment, please feel free. Public comment session is open. Okay, going once, going twice, seeing nobody come forward, we'll close the public comment session. We will have one more public comment session just before the end of the meeting. Next on the agenda is a public hearing, site plan review, adult use marijuana cultivation facility, 11 Pond Road, map R70, lot 16. It's in the RCI zone. The applicant is CAF Realty of Maine. Public hearing is open. Feel free to come forward and make your comments. I'll write some, if you have questions or comments for the applicant or for the board, we'll write those down and then we'll get to them in when we start discussing their applications. So public hearing is open.
Okay, so...
Could you state your name and address for the record, ma'am?
Okay. Allison Graybill. I live at 10 Pond Road with my husband, Jerry Graybill, in Berwick. So tonight what I would like to talk to you about is the comp plan and how this project does not meet the comp plan. So I'm going to quote directly from the comp plan and will provide page numbers for your reference. So in reviewing the comprehensive plan, it became apparent that there were 2 common repeated themes. One was that the intent for commercial development and activity was to be restricted to Route 4, Route 9, Route 236, and the Village District. And the second theme was, was to preserve the small town atmosphere and rural character of Berwick. So this proposal does neither. So to start with the commercial activity, starting on page 46, section 4.1a, quote, determine possible new sites for commercial and industrial parks adjacent to the village with direct access to Route 236, Route 9, and Route 4 that would not conflict with residential areas, end quote. To quote the amendment document dated September 2003, quote, work with North Berwick and South Berwick to promote acceptable industrial and commercial growth along Route 4, end quote. Page 67, quote, another goal of the land use planning is to assure compatibility of adjacent land uses and reduce and minimize conflict between incompatible adjacent uses, end quote. So this project is in apparent conflict to the existing residential homes that are in our neighborhood. Page 68, quote, RCI dash description, mixed use area near South Berwick along Route 4 corridor and the railroad for commercial activity. So it, it clearly states that commercial activity is to happen on Route 4 and then it goes right to the railroad, which I was looking at this map earlier. It really designates where that commercial activity was intended to be based on the comp plan. And this project is obviously not on Route 4 and does not adhere to what the comp plan was trying to do in terms of limit commercial activity in certain areas of the town. Moving on to the second theme, rural preservation. So the other theme was to preserve the small town rural character of Berwick among residential neighborhoods. This project is among residential homes. If you look at page 57, it states, increase the tax base without compromising Berwick's small town atmosphere or open spaces. This project is proposing to build a 44 by 80 structure with a 20-foot road around it, including a parking lot, to produce marijuana among residential homes. This compromises the small town atmosphere and open spaces that the comprehensive plan looks to preserve. Page 45, section 2.4. It says, quote, preserve intangible assets, including rural quiet, absence of intrusive outdoor lighting, and sense of security, which contribute to the rural character of Berwick, end quote. So this project does not accomplish that. At the last public hearing, we discussed our security concerns with having a lucrative cash business in our neighborhood. The 4-foot fence does not offer any security protection. We already have a marijuana retail store located at Route 4, which is Kind Farms. And they are also proposing to put another retail store and a production facility on Route 4, which increases our concern for increased crime in the area. As I mentioned at the last public hearing, the ATM, which is located on Route 4, was robbed in 2016. That's essentially an alarmed vault. And that was the first time we really all felt a little less secure in our neighborhood. The other facilities that are located in Berwick and the surrounding communities are not located among residential homes like this project is. And this is another reason why this project should not be approved and does not comply with the comp plan. Page 46, section 4.1C. Through a set of performance standards, work with businesses to minimize the environmental impacts of new business development on groundwater quality, stormwater quality, erosion control, air quality, and noise. As we previously stated, we are concerned with the negative impact this project will have on the water supply and the air quality. We're greatly concerned about how our wells will be impacted, especially with the increase in water usage, especially during a drought. We're worried about spillage into our water system and that of the South Berwick Aquifer. And we're worried about the diminished quality of life that will occur due to the odor and the reduced sense of security and being able to open our windows and enjoy the outdoors. And then lastly, on page 117, there's a map, which I brought. You probably have seen this map. And it's titled Historic, Archaeological, and Cultural Plan 2010. And it designates our neighborhood as, quote, scenic overlook worthy of preservation, end quote. And Pond Road is specifically noted on this map. So this map indicates that the town's responsibility to preserve the scenic neighborhood of Pond Road. It was not the intent of the plan to put a pot farm among residential homes. Sorry, that was a lot to read. So based on these statements and the other items that we stated in the last public hearing, along with the numerous letters that we've written, this project does not meet the performance standards of the comp plan. So I guess I'd just like to take a moment and kind of step away from the facts. You know, Jerry and I, along with our neighbors, you know, we've meticulously researched this project. And the reason why we did that is because it just never felt right. You know, it never fit in the neighborhood. And if you look at the land that this applicant owns, he has a lot of land there, but there's just a small portion of it that's buildable. And so when all these revisions had to happen, like it was proposed to be 4, buildings, then it went down to 1, potentially 2. It was close to a school, so I had to get pushed back because it was too close to the school. It had to get adjusted again because it was in the shoreland buffer zone. The project became squeezed into this small space, and the applicant was trying very hard to make this fit. But the reality is it just doesn't. If you look at places in Lebanon, in Berwick, and in Elliott, they are all located on a main road, and they are pushed back. They are not among residential homes. And, you know, we talk about Marlene's home because it's right there, but it's really close to Christie's. It's really close to 3 residential apartments. It's close to our home. It's close to Dave Webster's home. And it just is not the right fit, no matter how hard this applicant tries to make it work. And I guess I just end with, again, we've been so engaged in the process because it affects where we live. It's our home, and we all look at our homes as a place to feel safe, a place to relax, a place to raise our children, our grandchildren. It's a place for us just to be outdoors and enjoy our time and not have to worry about a strong skunk odor. So, you know, we see this project as a project that will impact the quality of our life at our home. And that's why we've been so engaged in the process. So we ask that you do not grant this conditional use project.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Graybill.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing for adult use marijuana cultivation facility, 11 Pond Road. The applicant is CAF Realty of Maine. Please feel free to come forward to the podium. Just state your name and address for the record.
I'm Jerry Graybill. I live at 10 Pond Road with Allison. I just wanted to bring up a couple items that were in the packet today that came out. James and I did talk today, but we also talked with John Leach, the South Berwick Water Department Superintendent, about some of the conditions in here. If this were to go forward and get approved, not all of his concerns or ours have been addressed in the conditions. And I just wanted to go down through a couple of those.
Sure.
One of them was the water meter. The water meter was added, but a water meter can be used or it can be abused. I deal with it every day in the projects and stuff that I do at the engineering firm I work for. They can be bypassed. Most of them have a bypass, so they're meaningless to provide water usage records to the town of South Berwick if they have a bypass or the bypass is not locked. So if that condition is going to be in here, I think that should be added, that it have no means of being bypassed by the applicant so that the accurate water use can be recorded by the South Berwick Water District. The other thing is the applicant shall submit proof of purchase of carbon filtration and equipment required to produce negative pressure. We've asked numerous times for the design for this. You can buy all the carbon filters and fans to provide that type of environment, but if it's not set up and engineered properly, it will not work, and then it's going to affect our quality of life. So I think that should be stated more than just provide proof of purchase, that an engineered design shall be submitted for approval. And lastly, on South Berwick's requirements, they ask that a secondary containment for all pesticides or chemicals on site that are to be stored on site be provided, and material safety data sheets be provided, and that was not in the conditions. And I do like the fact that you limit the building height to 1 story, but as you and I know, 1 story can mean a lot to different people, and the size of the roof you put on that, you could possibly have 2 stories if you did a gambrel type roof. So I think that condition should be further expanded on. That 1 story means 1 story. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. This is a public hearing for the application at 11 Pond Road, CAF Realty of Maine. Feel free to come forward.
I'm Ben Gothier and I live at 2 Pond Road. So I heard it expressed at the June meeting that this was one of the longest application processes in memory, and we do appreciate the diligence and the peer review that was conducted. The 11 Pond Road project is incongruent with the town's plans, as Allison said. This, coupled with the length of the process, points to the fact that this project is the equivalent of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It simply does not fit where it is trying to be shoehorned in. I sincerely hope that both the applicant and the board realize this at this point in the process. The applicant currently contributes nothing to our community, and if approved, this project would contribute a minimal amount to the town. There would be no job creation for our town, as this is a company that already exists and has workers, a few of whom will apparently move their work location, and the only financial benefit that will be gained by the town would be an increase of a little more than $5,000 per year on the property taxes for 11 Pond Road. This minimal benefit would come at our neighborhood's expense. While it is certainly debatable whether or not the proposed project would negatively impact our home's values, there is no doubt that if we wanted to sell our houses, that some buyers would immediately be turned off by having such a facility right in our residential neighborhood. So while someone may end up paying the asking price, it might take months longer to sell than if there was no facility, which would no doubt cost us money in the end. We can debate endlessly about the ecological impact, whether the proposal meets certain standards set by the town or not, and 100 other details of this project. The bottom line is there is next to no benefit for the town or our community, and all these questions that keep coming up cannot be answered impartially or truthfully. The board must vote no on this project.
Thank you, sir. The public hearing for 11 Pond Road, applicant CAF Realty of Maine, is open. Feel free to come forward to the podium.
Hi, my name is Paul Amatucci. I live at 12 Perry's Way in Berwick, and I am on the next street over, actually physically looking at that property from my yard. It's been a long few months in the fight for our neighborhood and against the development of this marijuana facility. I think the planning board has seen the tenacity and commitment of the citizens of Berwick and some from South Berwick in opposing this project. 2 sidewalks had to be scheduled to accommodate the number of people who are interested in this facility not going forward in this neighborhood. But we haven't been fighting just because we want our way. We have been fighting with legal, engineering, and environmental concerns that all of us need to consider as real and continuing obstacles. The fact that we are months after the initial application with strong and unresolved concerns shows that this project is flawed and not right for approval. If approved, we can never put this genie back in the bottle again. The odor is an issue, and it's pervasive everywhere in the United States where these production facilities are built. Even negative pressure environments and air scrubbers will not work enough to mitigate the odor for direct abutters. According to the comprehensive plan, any odor leaving the property is a violation. But if approved, this just becomes a complaint. Being a mortgage professional and also a certified real estate educator in Maine, I know property values for the abutting and close-in properties will decline by the approval of this project. Real estate law requires full disclosure, and this disclosure will hinder sales and prices. Early on, Route 4 abutter Chris Massios brought up the significant wetlands issue. The Graybills had done significant research into the impact on the wetlands and drinking water involvement. Engineering studies have had to be altered several times, with buildings moved and the project reduced from 4 potential buildings, as Allison had said, to 2 to now 1. Another new plan was submitted just last week. Area homeowners fear for the water aquifer running under the property, which supplies our neighborhood residential wells. This aquifer also supplies drinking water for the town of South Berwick. Our wells are at the mercy of this project, the quantity of their water use, and the ability of an undetermined holding tank to protect us from their unidentified and proprietary chemicals. With with this project are wells need to be monitored regularly. By whom? The homeowner, I would imagine. We cannot trust telephone assurances, loose language, and empty promises about curing issues that arise after the production facility is operational. This will not work for us, and hopefully not for the planning board. Marlene McDonald and Heidi Levier, the closest abutting property, have been deeply involved in this long process with the legal counsel concerning rights and permissions to encroach on a legal easement over their septic. They have been vehemently opposed to losing the natural scenic view and quiet enjoyment of their home and environment to this production facility built just feet from their property line. The Goths' support, ideas, and hard work have been very strong and helpful, as they are direct abutters with very young children at stake. In fact, as this process has unfolded, and as we have discussed it with neighbors, all Berwick residents on Perry's Way, on Pond Road, from Berwick into South Berwick, and Circuit Road are unanimous in their opposition to this project. Our neighborhood says no. We believe, according to the current comprehensive plan, this project is not good for our neighborhood and violates both the meaning and spirit of the plan as written. Further, it also does not meet all the defined parameters for conditional use. The comprehensive plan on page 117 describes or defines this area as one to be preserved because of its scenic beauty and natural environment. That alone demands a no vote. Several months ago, I made a point about owners building a facility which was operated by tenant growers and producers and not by the actual applicant and owner. How can the town monitor this? The issue has yet to be answered. Who is responsible? How are they responsible? Who gets fined? If the facility is shut down because of one grower, do they just roll out a new grower and continue? Where is that plan written down? How do we cope with rogue operators and owners? This is not an auto lot, self-storage facility, or farm stand. This is the production facility for a drug that is illegal in most states in the United States and also classified as illegal by the federal government. Area residents, their children, grandchildren, do not need to hear police and fire sirens or the invasive sound of burglar alarms waking us in the middle of the night instead of birds and crickets. These places are targets. Our neighborhood had a sample of the burglar alarm sounding for 45 minutes on the 4th of July evening, courtesy of Kind Farms medical marijuana store, just steps away from this project. Lastly, on a much more personal note, I want to express as strongly as possible that Berwick, one of the oldest and most historic towns in Maine, settled in 1623, incorporated in 1713, should not be known as the pot capital of Maine. Route 4 and Route 9 is also rife with retail and potential production buildings. More are on the agenda tonight and in subsequent meetings. Are we that hungry for new business? I am here to say tonight, not in our neighborhood and not at 11 Pond Road. We cannot shrug our shoulders, approve this project, and hope we can work it out later. There are significant issues which we believe are potential game changers. Don't approve this. Vote no.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is a public hearing for 11 Pond Road. The applicant is CAF Realty of Maine.
Good evening. My name is Keith Richard, and I represent Marlene McDonald of 13 Pond Road, as well as her daughter Heidi Levier of 11 Perry's Way, who's been supporting her in the light of this problematic proposal. I want to begin by just apologizing to the board. I've never had the honor or pleasure of appearing before this planning board, so I wasn't familiar with how to get into the building. So
That's okay.
I apologize I was late. it's been, I don't know how I could build off some of the very insightful comments that have been made previously and that have been made here tonight. But I'm here to say that this marijuana facility promises to ruin my client's quiet enjoyment and her solitude in retirement, and it should be voted down for, among other reasons, inconsistency with your comprehensive plan. And I urge the board to vote no. And there's been quite a bit of discussion and work by the planning office into whether this project meets your ordinance standards and the performance standards. Concerns and issues have been raised, and I applaud the neighbors, some of whom are here tonight, especially the Graybills, for their diligent and detailed input and the work that the planning office has done on the technical side of this application. And I don't intend to retread any of that ground tonight. And as the board has already patiently listened and has provided extensive opportunity for public comment on this application. So I thank you for that. The larger point is that even if the performance standards are met, and even if this use is technically allowed in this district, the town and this board always has the power and discretion to decide that this is the wrong project in the wrong place. Your planner and the planning office gives the technical support, but the ultimate decision and whether this is a good fit is yours. And that brings me to the comprehensive plan. One of the chief objectives that's set forth on page 66 of the plan is to minimize incompatible uses, to preserve environmental values, and to minimize degradation of the environment. At the June 4th meeting, one of the planning board members highlighted that on page 83, that there is a need to minimize negative impacts of businesses. This marijuana business is incompatible with the surrounding residential uses and will bring negative impacts. In reading your plan, if the town's identity and the land use vision that's set forth there could be described in one word, it would be rural. Berwick is described as a, quote, rural riverside town, and references to the rural character throughout the plan make very clear that the primary objective is to preserve that aesthetic. In table 11.1 listing the assets of the town of Berwick, asset number 1, quote, the rural character and beauty of surroundings. The 2014 update places emphasis on, quote, fostering a healthy relationship with the land and river through conservation, environmentally minded development, substantial and functional green space, and responsible recreation. Having reviewed quite a few comprehensive plans in the state of Maine, I've yet to review one that celebrates rural quite like the town of Berwick. And with that in mind, what is the rural industrial zone? I'll tell you what the rural industrial zone is not. It's not the marijuana cultivation overlay district. But with this proposal likely to expand in the future, with kind farms next door, other growers knocking on the door, it's not hard to envision it becoming exactly that. My clients are not the first, and unfortunately will not be the last, to be pressured to make way. And once the momentum starts, it's hard to slow and impossible to reverse. And that's why your comprehensive plan is there to provide guidance. It requires you not only to narrowly assess the four corners of an application, but to step back, consider the context, the broader implications, and whether the application is in harmony with the plan and the surrounding neighborhood. And that's the legally operative word, harmony. This proposal is not in harmony with the plan and the surrounding neighborhood. It's been said that no matter what the vote here and whatever decision the board reaches is going to be appealed to the Superior Court. And I happen to know very well the standard of review and what standard this decision would be judged by a judge. And I'll tell you that there's not a judge in the state of Maine that would second guess this board's conclusion that this is a bad fit for this district in this town. The law simply doesn't allow judges to substitute their judgment for yours as the technical experts, as persons that have been elected and are most familiar with the needs, priorities, objectives, and vision of your town. It's a fact-based and discretionary decision, and judges are wary to invade your discretion. That's the law. And speaking of law, we dispute that the applicant has the right title or interest to construct the road over my client's septic easement. And the Maine Supreme Court issued a decision just last month that's very significant. In Tomasino v. Town of Casco, the Maine Supreme Court held that if there's any dispute about easement rights in a deed and what a deed means, that the applicant must first obtain a court order that they have the right to do what they're proposing to a board, to a municipal board to do. You're not experts in the construction of deeds, and simply put, the Maine Supreme Court has held that it's up to the applicant to come forward with the authority and clear authority to do what they want to do. So in other words, the applicant here would have to file an action asking a judge to declare that he has the right to construct a road over this easement. And in referencing this easement issue, the planner in the last meeting was 100% correct that this is a civil matter. There's no qualified legal opinion from the applicant that I'm aware of, and thus no evidence before this board that the applicant has the right title or interest to build this road. So in conclusion, there are a number of reasons to vote this down. I've emphasized the comprehensive plan. I support the comments, the very insightful comments of the other persons here tonight, and I urge the board to vote no.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is a public hearing for 11 Pond Road, and the applicant is CAF Realty of Maine. Please feel free to come forward.
My name's John Webster. I live at 59 Junction Road in South Berwick, Maine.
And do you have own property in Berwick?
I do.
Okay, where is that?
It's at 292 School Street
Okay,
and just off Route 4, which abuts this
gotcha.
land.
Just want to make sure.
No problem. Before I get started, I just wanted to say my comments are not meant to be directed at anyone in particular, and I certainly understand that everyone on the planning board is a volunteer, and they deserve a lot of thanks and credit for all their time and effort. There have been many issues in an effort to prevent this conditional use permit application from being approved. I'd like to address some of those issues now. Distance from the nearest residence. I believe from the plans that have been submitted to date, the initial proposed building is roughly 140 feet from the nearest residence. The nearest grow facility, the planning board approved for 398 School Street marijuana grow facility, is definitely much less than 140 feet. Possible effects on the water aquifer. The applicant has stated that any liquid produced on the site will be kept in a storage tank and trucked off. The concerns of the South Berwick Water District. The South Berwick Water District doesn't own the water aquifer under the ground in this area. South Berwick Water District shouldn't be allowed to place any restrictions, conditions on the applicant since they're not in a abutter or they have any real legal standing in this matter. The proposal is stated that their water use is in line with a two-bedroom house. South Berwick Water District doesn't place restrictions on residents who build two-bedroom homes. The structure and how it blends in with the local area. It's proposed to be a barn-like looking building, and there are already a horse barn across from Pond Road from the property and a rather large barn on the property. Quiet residential neighborhood. This property is bordered on Route 4 and Pond Road. Route 4, in the immediate area of the proposed development, has a National Credit Union ATM, a medical marijuana dispensary, and 2 heavy construction yards. Route 4 has an average of 10,000 vehicles a week passing by Pond Road within 300 feet of the 3 residents at the end of Pond Road. This figure comes from the Maine Department of transportation count information page. This is a fact. This isn't a made-up number. The two residences just off Route 4 at the top of the hill, across from the property under discussion, are approximately 300 feet from Route 4, and these 10,000 vehicles pass there every week. I live on Junction Road in South Berwick. My house is approximately half a mile from this proposed project. In the same area being discussed, I can hear every car and every truck that passes on Route 4. I wouldn't consider this a real quiet neighborhood. Increased traffic in this quiet neighborhood. Pond Road, which is the proposed access for the proposed project, is a shortcut for residents accessing Route 4 and Blackberry Hill Road, who live in the immediate area north and east of the area being discussed. Pond Road has approximately 35 houses on it, which would contribute an average of roughly 70 vehicles a day going and coming to their residents. Add to that an average of 30 or 40 cars a day passing over it from non-Pond Road residents, and you get in excess of 100 cars a day using Pond Road. I've lived in the immediate area for 68 years, so I'm very familiar with the traffic pattern on Pond Road. I don't think that 2 or 3 additional vehicles entering or leaving the proposed facility will have a big adverse effect on the quiet neighborhood. Increased crime. There's been much said about increased crime from a marijuana grow facility. There have been marijuana grow facilities in Berwick for at least 6 years. In that time period, there has been only 1 police call from a marijuana grow facility, and this was an illegal facility which has since been shut down. Security is a very important issue with any marijuana grow facility, one which I'm sure is taken very seriously. Owners want to prevent any problems as much, if not more, than area residents. Legal business. This is a legal business. Just because some people still have a negative opinion of marijuana doesn't make it bad. The majority of voting residents in Maine voted to legalize marijuana. So the majority of Maine residents think marijuana is okay. Zoning. We have zoning for a reason. 1, the majority of Berwick voting residents wanted zoning and voted to institute zoning years ago. Zoning helps regulate what is built in what areas of town. The proposed business is allowed in the current zone. Conditional use permits are reviewed and approved on the merits of the application, not on residents' personal desires, opinions, or unsubstantiated facts. Berwick's comprehensive plan. Berwick adopted its current comprehensive plan in 1991 and revised a portion of it in 2004. By state guidelines, the comprehensive plans are supposed to be revised every 10 years to keep current with zoning rule changes. Consequently, the Berwick comprehensive plan is out of date and out of what the state recommends, the guidelines of the state. The issue about real estate values that have been made, it kind of baffles me that Kind Farms came before the planning board to build their marijuana dispensary plan, and there was absolutely no opposition. Now, some of the applicants that have made these statements about possible real estate value lived in that neighborhood when that facility was being considered. So I don't know what the difference between dispensing marijuana, I guess that's okay, but you can't grow it. You know, there's kind of a conflict there. There were a couple statements made at one of the public hearings about the comprehensive plan, and one of those statements was something to the effect of having a town-wide minimization of negative impacts from business. That was referenced on page 83. Well, I looked up page 83, and page 83 is part of what is on page 82, tabled 2-7, local economy plan. And this statement comes from under programs number 5, environmental and visual quality. And that's what they refer to as town-wide minimization of negative impacts from business. So it has to do with environmental and visual quality. We're talking about a horse barn type structure, which I believe has been stated by the applicant, which I don't see much different than the horse barn that already exists. So I find it hard to believe that this would have a town-wide negative impact. And then there was another statement made about severely affect the health, safety, and general welfare of the town. Now, this planning board has approved several, at least one, and I think there's more than one, marijuana grow facilities in Berwick. I find it very hard to believe that one building that's going to grow marijuana would severely affect the health, safety, and general welfare of the town. The police chief has stated that there has been, on a permitted legal marijuana grow facility in 6 years, there has been no police calls. The applicant has stated that any chemicals used are going to be kept in a containment tank. There's not going to be any discharge to the land. So there's not going to be any degradation of the aquifer. All of these statements are unsubstantiated statements made by people that don't want this facility. I think that goes a long ways. In closing, I just wanted to state that as a businessman, I've been through this process in Berwick and several other municipalities in New England over my 35-year period. The opponents always have many reasons why they can oppose a project in their backyard. In reality, very few of those concerns are valid or ever come true. I know we're all human and we all have our own personal opinion of things, but it doesn't help the process when you let opinions cloud the facts. Please remember, we are dealing with facts here, not personal opinions. For the record, I am not opposed to this proposed facility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing for 11 Pond Road. Applicant is CAF Realty of Maine. Feel free to come forward.
My name is Tony Sincotta. I've been a resident of Berwick for 85 years, with the exception of 25 years in the Army. My generation doesn't want to see Berwick become the epicenter of the local marijuana trade, regardless of what the gentleman just said. I strongly disagree with him that the majority of people in this town want to see marijuana. I'm questioning the board about how a marijuana growth facility was approved just up the street from an elementary school. And then my next question is, right across the street is another marijuana facility of some sort. Any answers to the
James,
board?
can you take those questions down and then we'll answer that after he's...
Sure. I'm not the sharpest guy to come down the pike. I don't like to see people doing drugs for any reason whatsoever. It's a money game. That's all exactly what it is. I saw what drugs did to people in Vietnam the 2 years I spent over there. Anyway, it bothers me to think that the town that I love and have lived in most of my life is turning into a epicenter for weed or grass or whatever you want to call it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your service. This is a public hearing for 11 Pond Road. Applicant is CAF Realty of Maine. I just want to make sure that, is anybody not gone tonight that would like to go before we go for a second go-around here?
Hello again, I am Ben Gauthier from 2 Pond Road. And I just wanted to submit that Pond Road is not a shortcut. It's the neighborhood where I've chosen to reside, where I married my wife, and where we raised our 2 kids. The 100,000 vehicles a week statistic quoted, they don't drive on our road, they drive on Route 4. Marijuana is legal in the state of Maine, but it's not legal federally. Federal agents could come and shut down this project at any time. So while it's legal in our state, it's not completely and entirely legal. That's it.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, anybody else for the public hearing? Seeing nobody come forward, we're going to close the public hearing on 11 Pond Road. Just a procedural thing, I blew past the approval of minutes for August 6th, so we'll do those before the next public comment session. Next on the agenda is site plan amendment and expansion, medical marijuana storefront and adult use marijuana production facility. It's 357 Portland Street, map R70, lot 12-1 and 12-2, and the applicant is Paper Birch Company. Did we have anybody else? Okay.
So we can just,
All right,
just let
so,
Paul and Jeff in just to say bye, I guess.
Yeah.
well, this is just a public hearing, so
Okay.
this is a public hearing just for this application only, and we are going to be leaving this public hearing open because we're not going to be acting on this application tonight
Because we don't have a quorum.
because we wouldn't have a quorum if I had to step back. So this is a public hearing. Please feel free to come forward. This is a public hearing for Paper Birch property.
I guess I have more of a follow-up to what we had put in a letter, and just looking for some clarification on the purpose of the 1,000-foot requirement that is set up. As it stated, marijuana establishments need to be 1,000 feet from one another. And so when we read that ordinance, our interpretation of that is that it was designed to limit the concentration of marijuana facilities next to one another. So when Kind Farms submitted their application for the 20,000 foot production facility, we were surprised that it was being permitted because it's within 1,000 feet of the retail store. And so I guess just a point I want to make is when you read through the land use ordinance, I didn't see a restriction that said restaurants have to be located a certain distance from one another, or that car dealerships have to be 500 feet from one another, or you can't have 2 dairy farms next to one another. And so it became apparent that the intent of that ordinance was to minimize the concentration of marijuana in our town. And so I just wanted to hear more from the town as to why you can have marijuana companies have these clusters. Because if you look at Kind Farms, they could buy the lot right next to them, and they could put in another 20,000 foot production facility. And there's really, based on your interpretation of the ordinance, there's nothing stopping them from doing that. So it's just, if we can't prevent the Kind Farms facility, maybe we can open up a discussion about how do we control the growth and not have, big conglomerate marijuana companies come to Berwick and just buy up a ton of land and, put as many buildings as they want on it. So.
I will be addressing that towards the end of the meeting tonight, for
Okay.
sure. Thank you, Mrs. Graybill. Anybody else for this public hearing for Paper Birch property at 357 Portland Street? seeing nobody else come forward, we're going to keep this public hearing open for the following, or for 2 weeks from now. I'd like to ask the town attorney, Phil, can I ask a question if you could just come off of mute?
Sure.
I know that selectmen can do this, but can the planning board go into executive session?
Yes.
Okay. I need to, yeah, because yeah. I think we're going to need to do that. So this is not being shady, or this is not being slight-handed or anything like that. This is just to make sure that there's no conflicts of interests and things, because for this next application, for Paper Birch, I had to recuse myself because of my employment. I'm employed by a media company that does marketing for them. And I need to just talk this over with the board ahead of time. And unfortunately, executive session means that it's only the three of us in this room, and we have to shut the feed off there just to talk about that, and whether or not the rest of the board wants to tell me to not even vote on the other application. So I'm really sorry for being in this position, because as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, it could be a potential situation. So
do we just want to step out for a moment?
I mean, yeah, we could do that.
Versus emptying the room?
Besides emptying the room. So we're temporarily going to go into executive session.
I'll just, can you hold 1 second? Can you hold on 1 second?
Yes.
Steve, can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you need me to pop down for this, or are you good?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Phil.
Yes, I can.
Sorry, so I answered the question pretty abruptly, but I didn't understand exactly what you were saying. So you're asking to go into executive session, just the 3 board members to discuss?
To discuss
Situation?
to discuss my situation, correct?
Okay, I'm not sure that that's allowed without my attending. So the board can have an executive session to discuss legal obligations of the board. And so if it's something that falls within that, we can have an executive session, but I have to attend as your attorney.
Okay, then kick
Like,
everybody
would you
out.
be able to have an executive session without me?
Yeah,
We
I
can
want,
bring you along. Can you attend virtually? Is that okay? Does that work?
Yes, I can attend virtually.
Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. We're gonna go.
Are you taking your laptop?
E, consultation between a body and its attorney concerning the legal rights and duties of the body.
I did a motion.
And Nicole's got a
Second,
second. Further discussion? All in favor? Okay, so we are now officially in executive session.
okay.
Okay. All right, we're back here thank you for, I never thought I would have to do that before, so I won't be acting on this application. The reason being, and I think I explained it earlier, is that 2 weeks ago, the applicant Paper Birch property, I had to recuse myself from because my employer is a media company and this company directly markets with them. And you probably would never know that unless you listened to the radio and heard me voicing their commercials. So if I acted on 11 Pond Road in any way, shape, or form, I would, there could be, I'm not saying that I'm biased in any way, but there could be a potential conflict that could be challenged at some future event. So I'm going to be recusing myself from voting on this. And we had the executive session with our town attorney, and we could bring this to a vote, but as of right now, we only have 2 people, which is not a quorum. We need 3 people. So we're going to have to table this application, or not table it, but we're going to have to continue it until 2 weeks from now when we can get a quorum here and I can sit in with you and have another regular member here and vote on this. So I apologize to the applicant. I apologize to all the residents there that we can't act on this tonight, but
I'm confused. It's not Birchwood, it's 11 Pond Road that you have the conflict of?
it's that's correct. But because this is,
Why is that?
The appearance of a conflict.
it would be the appearance of a conflict because it would be a competitor.
You need to come to the podium to be able to be heard. Please.
Are we really taking audience participation right now?
Clarification. So, just so I understand, I'm not questioning, I understand you've made the decision. You're doing advertising or marketing for Birchwood, which is a competitor of 11 Pond, or
James, can you hear me?
your conflict?
It will be.
It will be.
It could be.
I get it now.
It could
Okay.
be.
Got
It
it.
could be, and that's why I don't want to vote either way on either application,
got it
say
now.
yay or nay to one.
Okay, because I just heard Birchwood the first time around, the second time was just now is when the first time you said 11 Pond. Now I get it. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I do respect the chair's decision. My understanding of conflicts is that the conflict will have a bearing in the opinion of the person making the decision, that will impair your neutral, objective judgment. That association with Paper Birch and your employment will affect your vote on 11 Pond Road. So am I hearing that Mr. Chair, you've made the decision that you believe you personally can't be impartial on this application?
That's not true. I could be impartial on this application, but I don't want there to be any appearance of a conflict of interest.
And we've already spoken to our attorney about
I don't want
this.
there-
So
yeah.
we're under advisement from our attorney.
Listen to your attorney.
I don't want there to
clear
be
on
any
the record.
appearance of a conflict of interest. It's not that I could not act on this application for Pond Road without, I just, no. That's just the way that it is, so.
I have another follow-up question, I'm sorry. Do you have any reason to believe you won't have a quorum in 2 weeks?
No, this is
No.
out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
James, do you mind if I just speak really quickly?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, just because the audio was out until I just heard the very end of Mr. Richard's comment. So I just wanted to make one clarification is we reviewed the standard for conflicts of interest and periods of conflicts of interest. And obviously the chair has to make his own determination, and then the board will have to vote on whether to agree on that recusal. So that's where we are from a procedural standpoint. But any decision on conflicts has to be made in public setting, which I know you're about to do. So I just wanted to clarify that's where we are procedurally here.
Okay, and I could actually vote on that, so looking for a motion that I would potentially have a conflict of interest after talking with the town attorney.
I move that you are able to recuse yourself from this.
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Procedural. Thanks, Phil.
And then Can we just talk about with Phil and everybody here still what I asked? Because we went into executive session to talk about your recusal, but I proposed a question to Phil because we've heard so much from the audience tonight about what we can legally do and what we can't legally do. So Phil was going to address that to everybody.
Can you repeat your
As
question?
a board, if we are, are allowed to use our own discretion when.
Madam Vice Chair, can I ask that you repeat your question to him?
Well, yeah, my question was, as a board, are we allowed to, or, can we vote based on our own discretion versus, A, B, C, and D, if it checks all the boxes, pass it through. And Phil said that he would be comfortable discussing that with everybody.
Yeah, so maybe one thing I could propose to do here, because we now have a recusal, so the chair should not take part in any of this discussion. So what I propose to do is at the next meeting, we could answer questions. I could be there to answer questions for those members sitting, so that everyone who's going to be sitting has the benefit of hearing the answers. And thank you for re-answering that. And just so people in the audience understand, the member asked that question, and because we were in executive session, we were not in executive session for that reason, and we were not allowed to discuss the merits of the application. We did not. And so we stopped after the reason why we went into executive session, came back out, and that's why the question is being asked publicly. So there's no discussion of the merits for that question in executive session. I just want to make sure the record is clear on that. So what I would propose is, to the extent the board has any substantive questions about the merits, discretion or anything like that, perhaps we could do that at the beginning of the next meeting where you take this application up. That way all the board members can hear those answers in discussion, and the applicant and the abutters who have an interest in this can hear it as well. I think that's the fairest way to do it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
May I just ask a question?
So the next on the agenda is another public hearing, so I'm going to be passing the gavel here to the vice chair.
We already did the public hearing.
Or we're pretty much.
It's still.
Pretty much I'm done for this meeting now.
No, we're moving on to old business right now. So
So 11 Pond Road is off, right?
11 Pond Road is off, yes.
Will the board members that are not here be watching everybody's heart that was poured out this evening? Or do
Yeah,
we have to do
yes,
it?
our board is very, the public hearing is over, so you're not coming back up to talk again about this. At the next meeting, if we have a quorum, we'll be voting on the we'll be voting on the project. I imagine they will. We're all very good about doing that, so yeah, they might be watching at home right now. Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
If that's the case, then why aren't they here?
I don't know. So we're moving on our agenda right now. So if you have further discussions, you guys, if you could just bring it outside so we can continue our meeting. Thank you.
But a really good question is, when did you know you weren't going to have quorum, and when did you learn about the conflict of interest?
Okay.
We just waste a bunch of
I
time
need
here.
Yours
you.
included. Okay. Thank you.
I just had a placeholder for the land use ordinance
Right,
in
yeah.
case we wanted to talk about
Yeah.
it, but I don't have any.
I don't think we should.
Well,
today.
so the next item on the agenda is the Paper Birch project, which we don't have a quorum for. So we're going to table that for 2 more weeks until we have enough board members here that would be able to vote on it. And then we are going to, so you can be unrecused now,
We have tabled
Paper Birch.
the 2 old business items.
Yeah. And pissed off half the town of Berwick in the process.
All right, we said we were going to act on the August 6th.
Yes.
So next on the agenda is the minutes for the August 6th meeting.
There you go. Bye. Bye, Phil. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
Phil.
you.
See you in 2 weeks.
I'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot, Phil. So we had myself, we had Nicole, and we had David.
Yeah, we were all here.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented for August 6th.
Okay.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Next is land use ordinance amendments. Are we gonna,
We already had the public hearing on the key things for the special town meeting that's coming for January 5th. And we have, I think, this meeting, and then we could talk again. I believe we might have some more time. Anyways, this was just a placeholder in case we wanted to talk about other amendments.
Okay.
I don't have anything to propose, but
when is that going to the town manager?
it's due. I don't remember the exact critical dates. but
September?
We had time. Yeah, we had. That's why it's on the agenda today.
Okay. I mean, I don't have anything else besides what we went over as,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the most important stuff we took care of.
all right, next on the agenda is public comment session. It's open to only any resident or property owner in the town of Berwick to come up and speak about anything that relates to the planning board. So public comment session is open. Seeing nobody come forward, we'll close the public comment session. Anything from the board or from staff?
We can end on a positive note. I think
Yes, please.
Great Falls construction is moving along, better than I think any of us I could even expect. I had talked to Julie for about half an hour today about, trying to figure out recycling or trying to figure out like the solid waste, and we talked about some of the renewable stuff that they're considering, or at least sustainable stuff, and they're cleaning out some of the prime buildings, and they're considering demoing at least 2 of the buildings. There's 4 buildings there, demoing 2, possibly 3, and they're on track for planning board for the winter, and they're looking for, you'll see the site plan. I think they're going to start sharing it small pieces October, December, get the planning board after December, and then it'll be 2 or 3 months. It's a big project, and then they're heading towards construction and demolition in by summer. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
So the first thing would be the lot line adjustment coming in.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
that's good.
It's gonna be surreal when it happens. It's just-
Anything else? Okay, next on the agenda would be the adjournment.
I
Please.
move we adjourn, please.
I second.
Okay, all in favor? All right.